I'm so excited to open what's inside of here. You already know it is the iPad Air in blue with the M1 chip that was released earlier this year with the Mac Studio and the monitor, the studio monitor. There was an event earlier this year. I didn't get the iPad Air at the time because, guys, you might already know, but I kind of have a lot of iPads, like a ridiculous amount of iPads. I already have 2 iPads. I don't need a third one. So the reason why I got it is because it has the M1 chip, and if you tuned into WWDC recently, you would know that if you want to use Stage Manager on iPad OS 16, you need an iPad with an M1 chip, and my iPad mini doesn't have one, and my 2020 iPad Pro also does not have an M1 chip, so I can't beta test Stage Manager. Also, the blue just looks incredible, but there is really no other reason why I need 3 iPads. No person needs 3 iPads to use on a day-to-day basis. I just want to clarify that. But in terms of the purposes that I'm using it for testing and things like that, I still don't need it, but I thought it would be cool that we open it and I share it with everyone. So let's go ahead and open this up and take a look at what we have. Here it is, iPad Air 5th generation in blue. Now, to be honest, I actually like the sky blue on the 4th generation a little bit better, the color. But again, iPad Air 4th generation doesn't have the M1 chip, so I couldn't pick that one up. But maybe in the future I'll pick it up because it just looks so good, but I don't really have a need for it. This is in 64 gigabytes. I didn't need to get it in 256. I think that's kind of a waste of money. At that price point, you might as well just get an iPad Pro. Now, I have said in the past that the iPad Air is probably one of my least favorite iPads, and that's mainly because it lacks so many features of the Pro that it almost feels like if you're already spending this much money for an iPad, you might as well upgrade to a Pro. But recently, my perspective has been changing a little bit as I have finished my first year of medical school and I've seen how much I've used my iPad Pro and what exactly I've been using it for. I've come to the realization that, once I've been in medical school, the iPad Pro as like a writing machine like it was for me in undergrad, it's not really the same for me in med school. I'm not taking a lot of handwritten notes in medical school because there's just so much content. It's not really practical to handwrite a lot of things. So I don't really need the Pro Motion display. So I'm kind of seeing that, maybe when you're younger, you're an undergrad, or even if you're older, but if you're in a profession or you're studying something that requires a lot of handwriting, then the iPad Pro I think is definitely worth it because the 120 Hertz is just amazing. And I still love the 120 Hertz just for using the device. But if you're not really doing that much like me, then you don't really need that, and then you can settle for something like the iPad Air. But you are only going to get 64 gigs of storage, so let me show that here. So this is the back of the box. This is the side. See that here, and then this is the front, which again is actually not a really pretty looking sort of wallpaper in my opinion either, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and open this. There is plastic on these iPad boxes. For those who are wondering, this was actually $40 off on Amazon. So instead of the regular $600 for an iPad Air at that. That's nuts. This was only $560 on Amazon. Okay, let's go ahead and open this up. So this is the display size. Let me see if it says. It's not quite 11 inches. I believe it's 10.6 inches, but it's not the 11 inches that you get on the iPad Pro, for example. And then it's definitely not the 12.9 inches that I have on the iPad Pro. Okay, let's open this up. iPad boxes are notoriously hard to open, but I'm just really excited to see the iPad Air in this color. I have loved all the iPad Air colors since they redesigned it and they gave it like USB-C and everything. I think all the colors have looked amazing, but I just never had a good reason to buy an iPad Air. It's just not the iPad for me usually, but we'll see if that changes. I've also recently started doing a lot more instructional videos educational type videos, and that requires the iPad. And I never mentioned this before, but I've always had problems with my iPad Pro in writing with the Apple Pencil. Ever since I got it, I've talked to Apple about it. I've even tried new Apple Pencils. There's just something wrong with the screen where when I write, when I'm like handwriting with the pencil, it skips and it makes like all these lines come out of nowhere randomly. And they said it's because it could be a palm rejection or a static issue. There were so many, excuses they gave, but I've just had to deal with it. So it's also discouraged me from using the Apple Pencil a lot, which is kind of sad. So hopefully I'll get to use it again with the iPad Air, but it won't be as fun. Okay, so inside the box we get the device itself, which is super thin and super light. I'm gonna set that aside. Then we have the packet with the paperwork. I know already that it's not color matched, so I'm not even gonna bother opening anything in here. The Apple stickers are still white. They're not gonna be blue like they were with the iMac. And then inside the box, I'm not gonna pull it out in case I wanna resell it. Well, that fell out, but you have your charger and your USB-C cable. And I don't know how many watts this is because I don't even use, I never use Apple's chargers anyway because they were always supplying such low wattage chargers. Oh, this is 20 watts, so which is pretty good, but it's like when I had the iPad Pro, they gave like an 18 watt charger in the box, which does nothing for the iPad Pro. It charges it like super slow. It's not very useful at all. And that's it. That's all you have in the box. So that's really cool. I'm so excited that we're about to open this. I love iPads, if you can't tell. I've always been a huge tablet fan. I love all tablets. I used to love the Kindle Fire tablets, the Surface devices, which I consider tablets as well. I wish I could get my hands on some of the Galaxy tabs, but I haven't. But I'm just a huge tablet guy. For some reason, I've always loved tablets. I think everyone should have a tablet. I think one way or another, it could be very useful at one point in your life. Even if you don't use it every day, like I use my tablets every day. Wow, and then you can see this blue color, which it does look really good, but it's just simply not as good looking in my opinion as the sky blue. And I think that's kind of an unpopular opinion because people really went nuts over this new blue color. Everyone was getting it. It was like the new color they were showing off. All the famous tech YouTubers were all getting this blue because it's new. And you can see the front, the display. I'll turn it on so we can see the bezels a little bit better, but the bezels are a little bit thicker than what you would see on the 11-inch iPad Pro because this is not quite 11 inches, its screen. I think it is 10.6 inches. One thing that I love that this has is Touch ID on the power button, just like my iPad mini. I think Face ID on the iPad is atrocious. It's absolutely horrible. It never works on my iPad Pro. When I have it flat on my desk, it never can see my face. When I'm holding it in landscape, it does like an okay job of reading my face, like not very often. And the thing is, when I used to use my iPad Pro in bed, like at night, when I was like reading or like watching YouTube or something, it wouldn't recognize my face in the dark. So it wouldn't even work then. So basically, I could never use Face ID anyway on the iPad Pro. So I don't like Face ID on the iPad. I much prefer Touch ID. I wish they bring it back to the iPhones too, because I love Touch ID so much. But let's go ahead and turn it on and see what it looks like. We can admire the device and how thin it is. You can see that there. Okay, we'll bring in my iPad mini. Quick start is not working with the iPad mini. We'll try it with iPad Pro. Okay, iPad Pro is also not working. We'll try it with the iPhone. It just works, you know. It's really not working. That's really sad. I've had it work before. Here it is. Set up new iPad, finally. Okay, so it took a little bit of trial and error, but it finally worked. I have noticed, I do feel like that the software experiences on Apple devices have slowly gotten a little bit worse, I think, as they introduce so many new features. I'm kind of scared to try Stage Manager on iPadOS because of the things I've heard, the bad things I've heard about it. But you know, I still think it's a step in the right direction. That they're trying to introduce some sort of productivity feature software-wise to the iPad. So we'll see what happens with it. Okay, so now I'm just setting up Touch ID, and now that I have 3 different iPads now, I think I can make an effective video comparing the 3 and kind of giving my perspective as to which iPad is meant for which type of person, especially because I use the iPad Pro and the iPad mini so regularly, and I'm planning on using the Air regularly as well. I think I've had so many years now of using iPads and kind of going through different phases of my life and seeing when they were useful and when they weren't, to have a pretty good idea of what to recommend and when to recommend a certain device over another for people. So I think that's something that I would like to do, and compare all the iPads. There it is, asking if I want to transfer any apps. I don't think I want to transfer any apps. I think I'm just going to set it up as a new device. I usually like to do that instead of transferring from an old device, because then all the devices just look the same. Alright, so it is finally set up. While I was getting set up, I brought over the other iPads that I have, the mini and the 12.9-inch Pro, just for a quick size comparison if you want to see what they look like all on the table. And I will show the screen here for the iPad Air. So it may be hard to tell when you're looking at it on video, but when I'm looking at it, I can definitely tell that it is not as crisp as the iPad Pro that I have, and it's definitely crisper than the iPad mini that I have. The iPad mini screen is not the best, but it doesn't matter as much because it is a smaller screen, so it's not a huge deal. And you know, when I'm swiping back and forth between the app, the pages on my home screen, the 60 Hz screen refresh rate is definitely very noticeable to me. Since I use the iPad Pro so regularly, this is like something that I notice a lot. Okay, so last thing I'm gonna do is set up the Apple Pencil with it. So I have 2 Apple Pencils because one of them was broken, and then I started using it with the mini. So it's really easy to set up. All you gotta do, if you've never done it before, is attach it to the side, like that, and you can see it show up. And now it's gonna give you some options for Apple Pencil. It just tells you what you can do with Apple Pencil. But that's about it. I've been blabbing a lot about this new iPad. I'm so excited to have another addition to the iPad family. We can do a whole bunch of tests with all 3 of these devices, a lot of comparisons and contrasts, and I will have to come out with the obligatory which iPad should you get iPad buying guide, because everyone has made a video about that, and it's just fun to talk about which iPad is right for you. Yeah, that's about it. This was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was a little bit of fun too, to see what this new iPad looks like. I really want to come out with a ton of more iPad videos. I love tablets. So that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next one.